video, we'll be going to discuss tests, measurement, and evaluation. I will be going to discuss tests. What is tests? The different types of tests, and what is the relationship of measurement to tests. What is test? Test is a systematic procedure for observing persons and describing them with either numerical scale or a category system. Thus, tests may give you either qualitative or quantitative information by Anthony J. Nitko. Test commonly refers to a set of items or questions under specific condition. Different types of tests. Essay. A response is written in paragraph form to an answer to a question or to fulfill requirements of an item. Types of essay items. Extended response type. The test may be answered by the examinee in whatever manner she or he wants. Restricted response type. The test limits the examinee's response may be answered by the examiner's response in terms of length, content, style, or organization. Matching type provides a defined term and requires a test taker to match identifying characteristic with the correct term. Multiple choice. A number of set answers for each question or item is provided. An alternate response test. Binary choice. A statement is either true or false, modified true or false. What is the relationship of measurements to tests? In scientific terms, test means an instrument to be used for accurate measurement for anything. A test is a specific tool or procedure used to draw out or elicit a response from the students in order to gain information. A test is commonly defined as a tool or instrument of measurement that is used to obtain data about a specific trait or characteristic. A test is a device or technique used to measure the performance, skill, level, or knowledge of a learner on a specific subject matter. A test is an instrument or a tool used to make a particular measurement. The tool may be written, oral, mechanical, or another variation. Examples of such tests are cardiorespiratory fitness tests, flexibility tests, and strength tests. What is measurement? The collection of information on which a decision is made. Every time a test is used, it must have its score, called measurement. To measure anything, we need some standard scale, questionnaire, or an instrument known as test. Measurement is not a new concept to you. You measured your height and weight throughout your growing years. You have read how fast athletes have run, how high some have jumped, and how far a baseball or a golf ball has been hit. All of these are examples of measurement. Measurement is the process of collecting information. A measurement takes place when a test is given and a score is obtained. The measurement is a specific score given by an expert every time when a test is applied. It is the process of collection of data on the properties or attributes of interest during the administration of tests or by some other reliable sources. The measurement takes place.
Defined measurements. Measurements, there are many definitions about measurements, but according to my research, measurement is all about the numbers of being able to quantify the performance or the abilities, for example, to gather informations by giving a test, conducting interviews, and monitoring behavior. And also, without a test is hindi ka makakagawa ng measurements to do with the assignments of quantifiable data by using one or more instrument such as a test or rating scale. Then according to Dr. V.K. Maheshwari, he defined the measurements by an act of labels which makes those values more useful in terms of details. Values made meaningful by quantifying into specific units. Generally, there are three types of measurements. These are the first is the direct, second is the indirect, and the third one is the relative. And first is the direct. To find the length and width of a table involves direct measurements. Of this is always accurate if the tool is valid. And the indirect, to know the quantity of heat contained by a substance, involves indirect measurements. For we have to first find out the temperature of the substance with the help of the thermometer, and then we can calculate the heat contained by the substance. And the last one is the relative. To measure the intelligence of a boy involves relative measurements. For the score contained by the boy in an intelligence test is compared with norms. It is obvious that physiological and educational measurements are relative. But without test nga, there are no measurements. And without a measurements, there are no tests. And yun lamang.
Hello sir, good afternoon. For our report today is all about assessment. So, assessment for learning. So, in classroom, where assessment for learning is a practice, students are encouraged to be more active in their learning and associate assessment. The ultimate purpose of assessment for learning is to create self-regret learnings who can leave school able and confident to continue learning through their lives or life. Teachers needs to know at the outset of a unit of student where their students are in terms of their learning, and then continually check on how they are progressing or improvement through strengthening the feedback they get from their learning. So assessment for learning occur to all stage of the learning process. Students are guided on what they are expect to learn and what quality works look like. So the teachers will work with the student to understand the identity or agility of their knowledge, any gaps or misconception, initial or diagnostic assessments. As the unit progress, the teachers and students work together to assess the student's knowledge, what she or he or needs to learn to improve and expand this knowledge or his knowledge, and how the students can best get to the point. Formative assessment. So for teachers, plan and modify teaching and learning progress for individual students, groups of students, and the class as a whole. Pinpoint students' strength so that both teachers and students can build on them. identify student learning needs in a clear and constructive way so they can be addressed. Involve parents, families, and friends in their children's learning. So, for student, assessment for learning provides student with information and guidelines or guidance so they can plan and manage the next step in their learning. Assessment for learning uses information to lead from what is been learned to what needs to be learned next. So, assessment for learning includes day-to-day activities such as learning conversation, a simple mental note taken by the teachers during observation, student self and peer assessments, a details analysis of students' work, assessment tools which may be written item, interview, questions, or item teachers make up themselves. So, definition. Assessments refers to all those activities undertaken by teachers and by their student in assessing themselves, which provide information to be used as feedback to modify the teaching and learning activities in which they are engaged. Assessment of learning. Assessments that is combined by a number or letter, grades, just like summative, compares one student's achievements with standard. Result can be committed to the student and parents, occur at the end of the learning units. So, assessment as learning begins as students become aware of the goals of instructions and the criteria for performance. Involved goals, things, monitoring process or progress, and reflections on rules or results. Implies students' ownership and responsibility for moving his or her thinking forward. Metacognition occur throughout the learning process. So, evaluation, diagnostic assessment, pre-assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment. So, diagnostic assessment or pre-assessment, assessment made to determine what students those not know about the topic. Assessment made to determine a student's learning style or preference, used to determine how well a student can perform a certain set of skill or related to a particular subject or a group of their subject, occur at the beginning of a units of study, used to inform instruction, make up the initial phase of assessment for learning. So, formative assessment made to determine students' knowledge and skill, including learning gaps as they progress through a unit of study, used to inform instruction and guide learning, occur during the course of a unit of study, make up the subsequent space of assessment of learning. So summative assessment, assessment that is made at the end of unit of study to determine the level of understanding the student has achieved. So includes a mark or grade against an expected standard. Principles of assessment for learning. So I have 5 principles of assessment for learning. Number one is the provision of effective feedback to students. Number 2, the active involvement of student in their own learning. So number 3, adjusting teaching to take account of their results of assessment. Number 4 is recognition of the profound influence assessment. So has on the motivation and self-esteem of pupils, both of which critical influence of learning. So number 5, the need of students or the need for students to be able to assess themselves and understand how to improve their skills or knowledge. So yun lang. Thank you.
What is evaluation? Evaluation in general gives the value judgment to the numeral value. It includes both tangible and intangible qualities. Here are some educationists that defined evaluation. According to James Bradfield, evaluation is the assignment of symbols to phenomenon. In order to characterize the worth or value of a phenomenon, usually with reference to some cultural or scientific standards. And according to Norman Gronlund and Robert Lim, evaluation is a systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting information to determine the extent to which pupils are achieving instructional objectives. Let us now move on the next topic. I discuss the assessment versus evaluation. Assessment is the systematic process of documenting and using empirical data to measure knowledge, skills, attitudes, and beliefs. Taking the assessment are meant for the teacher to try to improve the student path towards learning. Assessment and evaluation are both used to measure and are evidence driven and requires criteria.